There's nothing inside of the control panel that you will ever need to access. There are no fuses inside. The fuses are on the face of the panel. We do that for a reason, because there is high voltage inside of that cabinet. In the electrician's world, it's low voltage. In your world and everybody else's world, it's always high voltage. And I don't know if anybody in here knows it, but with the state of California, anything in excess of 50 volts, AC or DC, is considered lethal. Okay? If I go ahead and I tell you that those wires right there, are they hot?
Always hot.
Always hot. You prove it's not. Okay? But don't ever say, no, it's not. Everything I look at, even if I see wires sticking out the other end of it, it's always hot unless I prove it different. Come down, remember I said there's your battery charger right there? Remember what I told you about flying insects? Okay? You're going to reach up and touch a control panel and something's going to be underneath there, and they're going to get you on the bottom of the arm. Worst place on the human body to get bit. So, always beware. That battery charger is fully automated. You don't have to do anything. There are no adjustments. There's nothing that you have to mess with. It's powered by a circuit breaker that's down in the basement. It's all part of the utilities. When you guys go through your training for breaker panel locations, make sure you understand where to de-energize these circuits if you ever need to work on it. As I move forward here, the batteries, there are two sets of these 8D batteries. Okay, there's two on this side, there's two on the other side. They are the heartbeat, the main power for the whole generator system. Okay, if you'll notice, these are the older lead style maintenance type batteries. We do not enjoy or like or recommend that you use maintenance free batteries in any generator. Okay, maintenance free batteries.
Can I stop you? No. The company has tried to go to the a absorb glass mat type battery, the gel batteries. The gel. Now, is that the same thing as the maintenance free? Is that what you're talking about?
The maintenance free batteries are the batteries that do not have these caps.
Or you can't add water.
Okay, you can't add water and you can't maintain them.
Yeah,
now,
the companies try to make a change to change everything in the system, the buses, the generators, everything to go to those. What's the brand?
Or they're deep cell. They're probably like.
They're red. I'm trying to remember the.
So they're like Optima,
yeah.
the gel batteries.
Odysseys.
Okay, Odysseys, which are the same exact thing.
Okay.
The problem with the gel type battery is this is not a gel type battery charger. Gel type batteries are service batteries. They're service duty batteries. In other words, they're designed to be discharged. And they're designed to be charged right back up. Okay, this is not that application. You put gel filled batteries in here, or you put maintenance free batteries. This charger will eventually make those batteries explode. Okay, what they do is they go ahead. They can't regulate as well, and these batteries, each set of cells is individually vented. On a maintenance-free battery, you've got one little vent on the end right here. So what you have is you have an accumulation of gases at this end of the battery. So if there's a spark or an arc or anything else goes bad, we find maintenance-free batteries blown all over the inside of generators. Here's the bad part about that. One, God forbid you're ever around when a battery explodes. Secondary to that, when a battery explodes, it goes all over the inside of the generator, gets into the wiring harnesses. Once it does, you can't stop it. You can't wash it, can't get rid of it. New harness for an MTU engine plus the charge for a guy to come out here and reharness it, it's probably about $8,000 or $10,000 per engine. And we'll never be able to stop what it does for damage inside. Batteries do explode. We don't ever like to hear that. We don't like to say that there's, it's a common thing, but we see it. That's why there's warning tags. If they never exploded, they wouldn't put warning tags on them. The batteries are something to be tended to. Always use this type of battery when you're replacing. So, the maintenance-free batteries and any of your other pieces of equipment, it follows suit. I don't care how new or how old that piece of equipment is. I don't ever recommend maintenance-free batteries. This area up here in this box up here is just all of our interface controls. There's no reason for anybody to be in there. There's nothing you can tie onto. There is if we decide to add some functionality to it, but other than that, there's no serviceable parts in that box. If we go on down a little farther down here, hard to see this end. Access into this side of the engine. Now, when I told you guys, what's the best indicator on a generator when you walk out to it?
Base tank.
Right. What do you see?
Some sort of liquid.
Right.
Oh,
See that? We homed in on that. We'll clean it up before we leave, but what it is we ran the engines under full load. They really pack the cooling systems full of coolant on these when they ship them, and it pushed some of it out. It's not a problem with the generator, but it always brought the issue up. In the event that you decide that you're going to check your own cooling system, you see why it becomes so dangerous for you to climb up through parts up there if this thing's an automatic, because it could start in a power outage and you'd have your hands right up there and everything. Please don't get in these things without turning them off. And if you turn it off, lock it and tag it out. There are drains that are put into all of the systems here, so that in the event that we come out and we do maintenance on it, everything, we don't have to pull plugs, we have hand valves. That's standard feature with all the MTU product. They don't make us go hunting for anything. These engines also have a lot of hot components in them. They shield and they do everything that they can to keep your hands away from stuff, but you can't ever assume that a generator is cold, because you do not know right now when the last time I ran it. You do not know how hot it is. You think because it's been sitting out here that it hasn't run? You don't know that. You reach up there, you use that exhaust manifold for a turbo, you're going to get burned. So please keep your hands out of things when you're, like I said, you're not experienced enough to be doing the maintenance on these things. You shouldn't be touching it. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of shift back and forth here a little bit. One thing that I did want you guys to look at is on the side of the engine right there is a data tag that has the engine serial number on it. You will never need that, but if it's service tech, if you call in and you have trouble with something with the engine, I may ask you what the engine serial number is. If you go into your manuals, manuals are specific to these generators and should have all that information inside the book. So you don't even have to come out here and go through it, but you may not always have accessibility to it.
aside from the serial number being different, are they identical?
Sure, identical.
Okay.
Part to part, all the way through. Now, what I'm going to do is, instead of going on the other side of this unit, we're just going to look at this one, since they're exactly identical units.
Beautiful.
We're going to go ahead, we're going to start inside of this door right here, and we are going to switch sides. Be careful of that cord on the ground there. A lot of things going on this side of the unit. What we have right here are your fuel filters. One of the biggest complaints that I have against MTU, Caterpillar, and everybody who makes generators, first cut they paint the filters and you don't know the part numbers. So, but these are lube filters, and these down here are fuel filters. Okay, so remember what I said about using MTU filters? They come out, they're going to say Detroit diesel on them. Specifically designed for it. In the event that you ever ran the engine out of fuel, you go to start it and it doesn't want to start. There's a little black knob right here on the side of the engine. You see that little hand pump right there? You can unscrew that in a counterclockwise direction and you can hand pump this thing and you can get the fuel going back into it again. One of the very few engines that actually has that. What you do is you pump that handle until it just doesn't want to go back in anymore. Okay? And at that point you've primed it, you tighten it back down, you're ready to restart the engine. That does happen. I have customers, they forget that they haven't filled the fuel tanks, they run them through an outage, they run out of fuel on them. So, if you look right over here on the side, you'll see the oil fill and also the engine dipstick. Okay? So where you fill it, it's where you check it. Again, remember what I said, we don't use anything but the rated oil for the engine. If you also look down the side right here, and there's no door there, is the jacket water heater. The jacket water heater also has a little pump on it, so when it's running, it's always pumping fluid through the system. We come out here in 4 years from now, we say, you need to change all your hoses and belts, and you say, well, I've only got 10 hours on these things. Right. Take your passenger car, put it in the parking lot, start it up, and let it idle for 4 years straight. Tell me what kind of shape your cooling system's in. Why do we change oil in them every year when they've got just 10 hours on it? Because that oil has been heated up, breaks down.
So these water heaters, as opposed to the other ones, are just, this one does have a pump.
This one has a pump.
The other one's usually.
And the other one's a convection. Yep. They automatically lift that hot water up into the engine, and that hot, it's just displacement is all it is. So, same thing with the air filters on these guys. Air filters are always what the factory recommends on them, especially during the warranty period. Remember, using aftermarket stuff, then you can violate your warranty. Okay, let's move down that direction. What we have is the other set of starting batteries. Now, you remember when I told you that when you call us for warranty, we keep records, but you may end up calling me while I'm at home. I don't keep record of every single customer's serial numbers. If you look, there's a black tag right up there that says MTU on-site energy. On there, it gives you the rating of the machine. It also gives you the package serial number. The package serial number is the most important number on the entire unit. If you call me up or you call anybody up, say, I need emergency help, and this is during warranty or it doesn't matter, I'm going to ask you, what kind of generators do you have? I have two MTU 650 kW generators. This is the model number and this is the serial number of the generator I'm having the issue with. Let me tell you the benefit of that. You're helping me out to start with. Because if you say I've got a low coolant temperature and I need to come out and address it, I may have parts for and a replacement jacket water heater. I'm going to bring it with me just in case because I know what you have. When it comes down to the point where these units are no longer in warranty and you're paying for their repairs, you're going to pay me $120 an hour and you're going to pay me $2.50 a mile to drive up from Temecula to look at it and say, yep, the jacket water heater's bad. I'll go back to the shop and order you one. You just paid me $1,200 to come up and look at it. So that's what I'm trying, and again, it's so that I can help you out. It's not so I can help myself out. I want to save you the money and the time and the effort. That serial number, model number is everything. With that number, I know which control panel you have, I know which engine serial number you have, I know which generator serial number you have, I know the configuration, and I know how it's bolted to the ground. I know everything about it, just off those two numbers.
So they're 650 Ks.
650 kW each.
But because they're able to synchronize and shed
Yep.
load to each
So you have
one,
1,300 available kW.
1,300, so it's 1.3 meg.
Yep. Now if I come in behind this door panel right here, let's open this one up. This will have a permanent cover over it. It will be bolted on. And this is the main circuit breaker. This is the one that I'm telling you that you don't ever come out and you don't mess with. You don't push it, you don't do anything with it. When I leave here, I will install a cover over this. I do that intentionally because I do not want one unit running and you reach over and try and close the breaker on two non-synchronized generators. Now, good part about that, it takes care of itself. The bad part is if there's a loss of communication or anything goes wrong, you can't force it closed. But that's a good thing in this application because this is what the company ordered, this is what they wanted, this is the application, this is how it works. And this is the protection systems that are involved in it. This is not unique to MTUs. It doesn't matter whose generator you buy, they're not going to give you control of that breaker. So, in the event that it does overload, the bell alarm will pop out, the breaker will open if it's going over current. And yes, at that time, this can be reset and you can make another attempt to put it back in auto and let it go online. But you might want to at that time decide what your current loads are and what's dragging it down, and you may want to shut something off so that you don't overload it again.
In the event that the gensets went down and they wanted to bring in auxiliary gensets to hook up, do they hook them up directly here? Or
They can hook them up at the, well, realistically what would happen is if you brought in an emergency genset, the ideal location to tie it in would be the emergency bus down in the lower room. If you're going to bring in another generator that's compatible to one of these, another 650, then what you could do is you could actually go ahead and they could pull these wires back and attach to it and feed this because it goes to the emergency bus. But in the event of doing that, you have to disable both of these generators. That becomes a generator, and this is the reason that I was saying that it's so important that if you're going to have anybody work on these, please call us in. Okay, we know the system, we've built it, we know how it's going to respond to it. Because, technically speaking, if I hook up another generator that's I close the breaker on, I can start this up and parallel it to it. I can't do it the other way around. I can't parallel your rental to this, but I can sure parallel one of these to a rental. Because that functionality still resides in these. So, that part of it's actually a really good system. You can't put a 1.3 megawatt in here because one set of leads is not capable of carrying that rated load. So the maximum rental you could ever bring in and tie in up here would be 650. Now on the bus downstairs, you can bring in a 2 megawatt. Because you're tying to the bus. So there's lots of things that can be done. The only thing is, I'd hate to be the guy that had to pull the cables down underground. Because even on a 1.3 meg, you would be bringing in 5 cables per phase. And you'd be, that's 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 19 cables that you would have to drag from up here somehow to get down into that room. It gets real ugly. So that's why you'd always want to back it up with another 650, and you want to make your ties right here. And like I said, these can be pulled off. They can tie right onto these and send it on its way. So, like I said, and when it calls out these generators, remember it's going to call out both of them. Every single time you have an outage, both of them are coming up, and then it will shed the one that it doesn't need. And then in the event that you start drawing too much power, it'll automatically start the other one. It'll synchronize and it'll go online and share it. So it'll be quite the automated system.
Considering our position here, we're normally doing the regular weekly checks,
Mm-hmm.
the weekly run.
You can run, but you can't load it.
Right.
But what you can do is you can go downstairs and you can run them both off the ATS. In other words, you can do the test on the ATS. And if you configure the ATS that way, you can start both generators and just run them, okay? But they're not going to close to the bus unless you allow for a transfer.
Usually the electricians in our company are the ones that concern themselves with the ATS.
Mm-hmm.
We usually just come out and do a weekly start.
Yeah, and
test.
if you want to come out and do a weekly start, what you do is you come out and you hit the run button. But when you hit the run button, it won't close the breaker. So you'll be able to verify oil pressures and things like that. But you won't see like I said, it just
Any
nothing.
amperage out.
No amperage at all. And that's a safety that I actually programmed into here. Is when you hit the run button, you're not getting them to go online.
Okay.
So now down to the last thing, and this is where you're going to get your hands on a couple things here. This control panel. This control panel is actually very fail-safe. I'm doing some things right now you typically wouldn't have to do because I'm still in the middle of programming.
When we came to run them, we would run one at a time.
And you run them both.
We run them both.
Just, what it is you've got the 3 touch buttons right on the front.
Right.
Okay. Now, you can't go to run. If you push run, it won't go. You have to cycle through. So you have to go to off, silence it, okay? And then you hit the run button. So, there's no issues with you running it, right from here.
Of course, your book will have all that in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Little off, little alarm silence,
And then run.
then run.
That's your manual start. It's even like those big rocker switches you got on the old generators. You can never go from auto straight to run. You have to go auto, off, run.
Yeah, we could put cats right here like that.
Now, what this does, and again, now we're getting up into technology, guys. We don't like building them this way, but what we have to do is we have to meet emission requirements. So we have a lot of electronics on board in order for them to accomplish that. We would love to hand you a generator with a governor on it, basic system, much easier, lot better system. But since we're doing that, we're into the automation. This panel talks to the engine. Talks to it on a regular basis. It goes back and forth. That's what it's doing right now. Reading ECU data. What it's doing is pulling any data across into this so that it can look and see if there's any problems. It doesn't inhibit the run.
So it's just going back and forth on
Yep.
the cam bus.
That's right. It's just jumping back and forth. Now, this one right here, we can do this one. It's a little harder to see though. It's going to be hard for you to navigate. Let's move over to the other one. I got some stuff going on to do with my equipment. Okay, now, on the front panel, this is a default screen. This is the one you guys really need to pay attention to. Once you get over here on this side where you see it. If you'll notice right up here, it gives you the oil pressure, it gives your fuel capacity. It tells you what the temperature of the engine is right now, and it tells you what the battery voltage is. Okay? As soon as I start the engine up and I'm running it, it will also say what the voltage is, how much current, how many phases it's looking at, and the frequency. That's your default screen. It's always going to be there. Biggest thing you guys are going to want to know is details. You're going to say, well, I'm running it. I need to know a few things. So, there's nothing that you can push. There's no combination of any buttons that you can push here and ever mess this panel up. If you hit something that requires a password, it's going to ask for one. You're not going to have a password. Okay? So, the good part of that is no matter who you send out here, they're not going to be able to hit anything that's going to mess anything up. Okay. The navigation, and it will show you in the book, is the right arrow. Okay? When you're at the default screen. So what I do is I push it once, and it says, what do you want? Do you want metering or settings? You guys will never look at settings. Never. So what you do is select it again, go to the right. Now you can look at the engine, the generator, the power, bias controls, run statistics, and alarm status. Now this is so you can dig into the blood and guts of it. If it has an alarm, it's going to be flashing regardless. You don't have to go digging through the screens. It'll tell you right on the default screen. Low fuel, low fuel. Okay? The reason I come into this is I look at the engine, I scroll again. Now I have all the engine parameters. Okay? I can go down and I can see all the individuals here, what's on the default screen, plus I get a few extras. I get RPM, tell me what my control system is, engine load, what the percentage of engine load is, if there's a problem with coolant level. Total runtime. You're always going to be looking at that. It reads in hours and minutes.
It won't be on the default screen.
It's not on the default screen.
It's on your engine screen.
It's one of the things
The
that,
generator.
when you get used to it, it's no big deal. When you first walk up on them, and I know I've asked the question a million times to Basil, why didn't you put on the default screen the hour meter? He goes, really, because what we have is we have a default screen here, but even though this is just the basic right here. You want to know total runtime? This is what you're going to need. Don't worry, you're going to have your hands on this in a minute. Okay? If I'm on the default screen and I want to go to my metering, I can go through here and go down to run statistics. Go across. Do I want cumulative or do I want the session? It'll tell you how much it ran the last time. Lose track on your APC or AQMD log? Kind of neat. This will have it. Okay? If I go under cumulative times, what do you want? Do you want total runtime, or do you want the loaded runtime or the unloaded runtime?
Randy, will it store faults? Like if
Yes.
it will store faults.
It will
You
store
can
faults.
go back and look
Yes,
at.
That's an area where stored faults would be something that I'd come out and have to go back over with you. Because to access it through here is a nightmare. You'd have to have the password.
You got to know what your.
I'm not. When I talk about passwords on this stuff, I don't do it to lock you out, but I would be okay with you calling me and me walking you through it. If I arbitrarily give you a password and you write it down, you forget what I'm telling you, it'll really mess it up. So, all I'm ever going to try and do, I don't password protect like Caterpillar does. Caterpillar, if you want a password, you have to be a technician, you have to have authorities, and you have to have 5,000
You buy
worth
it.
of the software.
Yeah, you buy it.
Okay, I don't need that. But all the basic information I'll ever need is all right here. Touch your fingers anyhow. So I can go through and I can look at it and say, how much unloaded runtime do I have on it? Oh, I got an hour and 17 minutes. Most of the time that was loaded runtime on here is when we load bank tested. That record is burned into it. The only person that can reset it's me.
Can they put in individual it's like we got 3 individuals in the shop. Can they program those 3 guys in who's been in there and serviced it last?
I can do it on my laptop.
They can-
I can tell if I can tell if our guys have been in there.
But I mean, let's say if they wanted
No,
to say they have 3
absolutely not.
different people
No,
on
nothing
that.
to do with it. But you got to remember, there's nothing in here you can change anyhow.
Okay, I was just wondering.
You can read it, you just can't change it.
On the genset, loaded and unloaded. The running it unloaded, does it damage anything in the genset as opposed to loading it?
Well, every generator is built with what they call taper cut piston rings. Okay, and taper cut piston rings are designed so that when the engines don't have any boost pressure and they just start up, generators don't idle, they start up, go straight up to 1800 RPM. So there's no oil in the top end. So the taper cut rings are collapsed down. What it does allows oil to come up into the top end when it starts up. As soon as the engine builds boost pressure, it pushes the rings back out and seals them. So what happens if you're running unloaded all the time?
You get a lot
no
of
boost
oil.
pressure. So the rings are collapsed down. And then you get all that oil that passes up in, you get what's called wet stacking. then everybody wants to come out and do a load bank test on your generator. And what that does is that forces the turbo to build the full boost pressure. It pushes the rings out, cleans all the stuff out, and blows all the garbage out of the muffler. Okay? So, it's not good to run them unloaded for lengths of time. When I go ahead and I do an unloaded test on a generator, you're going to come out and do your weekly test, start it up, run it for 2 minutes, shut it down. Everybody says, oh, well, if you let it warm up, it's better for it. No, it's not. It's strictly the opposite. The cooling system's already active when you walk up on it. So if you got any leaks, you're probably going to find them anyhow when you walk up on the unit. What you want to do is you want to verify, A, are my batteries good? Does it start? Does it go to 1800 RPM and build 60 hertz? Does it build voltage? Yes, it built voltage. You're done.
Do I got oil?
You're done. Now, I got guys that come out here and they'll start them up. You got to run them for 45 minutes. And then they call us up and say, man, we went under load the other day and you couldn't see down the, we had an outage and you couldn't see down the street. Yeah, I bet you couldn't. So now what you did is you just also had the local fire department. The local fire department goes ahead and they respond to it, or they call you up and they say, what's going on down there? We ran our generators. Oh, okay. What they do is they get a little cut of the pie there and they call AQMD and say, hey, you got a generator out smoking. You may want to go down and check it out. AQMD comes down and says, you're not following your service procedures. Guys, it sounds like I'm being really kind of nitpicky, but really they do that stuff. They do it all the time. If they come down here and they tag your generator out, they'll tag it out for 6 months and you'll put a rental out here. And I'll lock these things down. So they're not going to do it for the wrong reasons. But if you decide to challenge it and not do what you're supposed to do with them, yeah, they'll get after you about it. First time they might say, yeah, have the generator company come out, check it out, just send us a copy that it's okay and we'll be off your back. Let it happen 2 or 3 times.
So our weekly genset runs, we shouldn't be running them 20 minutes like we've been doing?
No, it's terrible on them.
So we should run them just a couple minutes?
Yeah, because like I said again, what are you trying to prove in 20 minutes?
He's right there. Remember all the cats, their digital displays, they do come up right away.
No,
Yeah, they go for flash.
It to some point becomes just a logic thing. These generators don't need to run like that. All you're running it for is to make sure it does those functions. So to sit it and let it run, you're just burning fuel. And what you're doing is you're starting to load up your engine. You're starting to put all that stuff all over your intake and exhaust valves. It's getting all up inside the muffler. And you run it then you've done that, let's say for 2 years straight, and all of a sudden you hit a real serious power outage, and all of a sudden, you run this generator for 8 or 10 hours and it's burnt 5 gallons of oil. Because the rings have never come back and seated back up again because now the cylinder walls are glazed. There's no benefit to running them that long at all. None at all. If you had one at your house, would you start it up and let it run for 20 hours or 20 minutes every week? Why? It's a waste.
So I guess we have to change our procedures then. Because that's what we've always done.
It's always something to recommend. And you're always going to get an opinion. But, the thing is, and I try not to come off too bold to anybody, but I'm California State certified. I'm OSHA certified. I'm CAT certified. I was with CAT for 31 years as a technical advisor, and I was one of 3 service engineers worldwide. I've been through all the practices. I'm EGSA certified, and I've been through all of this stuff. And there's no reason for that generator to sit and run for 20 minutes. So based on experience, it's where I'm at. If this generator runs under full load, it cools down for 5 minutes after it sheds its load, and it shuts down. I don't run it for 20 minutes. No, I cool the windings down, I cool the turbos down, and it shuts down and secures itself. Why? I didn't come up with that. There's a perfected procedure out there that says by that time you've dropped your cooling temperature, you've dropped your exhaust temperature, and the windings have cooled down. We know in X amount of time those windings are safe enough to go ahead and cool down and take the airflow away. So you just don't need to do that. Now, I want to show you something. I want you to do it, and then when you're done doing it, you're going to show him how to do it. You pay attention to it. All right, come on up here. On the panel, like I said, these don't do anything right now because you're all the way back into the default panel. You can go to the right, okay? Anytime you get lost, just hit the left button and go all the way back, okay? Once you get off the screen, then you can start doing your selections. I can go up and select metering. I can go down and let you do the settings. Okay, so what I want you to do, once you get up here, you're at the screen, so hit the right button. Okay, now you're on there. What do you want? Metering or settings?
That's what you said. We're never getting any settings. We're
Right.
gonna go to
So just hit
settings.
it again. Now you can go to engine or run statistics. I don't care which one. Why don't you go to run statistics? Get you used to using it. Okay, all right. Now what do you want? Cumulative or session? You want the cumulative, right? Yep. So hit that, and then you want total runtime. Go down one, and then hit it again. There you go.
I'll do it for the 2 minutes.
Okay, go all the way back to the default screen. Okay, now go to the right one time. I'll show you the other place to find the hour meter. Okay, go again to metering, or set it to metering. Go to engine. Scroll down, and you get total runtime. See it? Don't be afraid to look at this thing. Don't be afraid to navigate. You can't do anything wrong, guys. You can't do anything wrong with this thing. Okay, now you jump up there and he'll show you where to go with it. When this really helps out is when you've got a whole bunch of guys out here and everybody's not paying attention and you bring them up and then what it is his buddy that he thinks he's smarter than he is up here teaching him how to do it. Okay, show him how to do it, man. I'm not going to do it.
You got the display screen on. That screen, so you want to see scroll to the right. When I do your settings, we're just looking for meters, right? So
Right.
scroll right again. So right here's where we're wanting to know where you want to go. We're going to look under engine, so go ahead and look under engine. So scroll to the right again. Okay, and right here you can scroll down. You should be able to find the hours. Runtime, total runtime is right there coming up.
There you go.
Okay, so that's our total
That's your engine
runtime.
hours.
So then scroll back to the beginning. Backwards. Okay, good. Now scroll to the right again. Metering again. Okay, we're going to scroll down to run statistics. Wait. Run statistics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can get in run statistics. Down. Down. To the right. That'll be like, what you want. You can look for the total runtime, you scroll down. And then press. And then we'll hit that some time again. 14 minutes.
What about if the engine's running, Randy? Can you toggle back to that?
Yep.
You can still go through that screen and not harm anything,
Yep.
right?
You can run through any of those screens while it's running. Anytime, any place. Okay, so I don't care what the engine is. I don't care if it's a 12V or it's a 16V or if it's a 4000 series engine. To me, horsepower is horsepower. Okay, so we'd love to sell you extra horsepower, but the engine generator package as a whole is what's emission certified. So what they do electronically is they say, okay, you ordered 650 kW, that's what you get. So even if I could up the horsepower, I can't give it to you because the engine's certified for that horsepower.
Okay, on these gensets, on our property, what are they hooked up to? Do we know, or is that left to somebody else to hook
Yeah,
them up?
I think that'll go with the guys when they go over your distribution issues, where they'll tell you what these are going to power. The only thing that I know right off the top of my head is they're going to power those two big fans down there, but I know nothing other than that. So I wouldn't be the guy to talk to.
Oh, so they're probably like on the rail side of the. Those are exhaust fans, so just in case.
I'm sure there's a certain amount of life safety. It's probably covers a certain amount of lighting. If there's elevators, it'll probably cover those. I'm just not aware of the system. I try not to get too far down the line because these guys know more than I do when it comes to that.
And MTU stands for?
Motor turbine unit. Yep. MTU owns Detroit Diesel and Mercedes-Benz owns MTU.
I knew Benz was somewhere in there because we used to use on the bus side a lot of Detroits. You know, they've gone away because they're not holding them back on the CNG anymore. So
Yeah, where Cummins had that CNG engine out.
Well, now, Detroit's big stronghold in the market has always been the Series 60 engine.
Right?
Yeah.
Great engine.
They don't make it anymore.
Yeah.
They quit.
Unfortunately. Everybody's crying.
Yeah, but you know what? They won't cry when the MTU comes out to replace it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, what it is, it's what they call their 1600 series engine. It's a inline six-cylinder, and the inline six-cylinder will put out 750 horsepower, so you can get up to 750 horsepower out of it. And it also doesn't use just turbo injection. Okay, what it does, it has a big turbocharger on it, but it's run off of a Sprag clutch. So when the engine is below exhaust pressure, it becomes a supercharger. There's no lag in the engine.
Is it that variable speed ring?
No.
It's actually in it.
Nope. It actually takes the turbocharger and it becomes a supercharger on the bottom side. Once it builds exhaust pressure, the exhaust pressure overrides the Sprag clutch, and you continue on exhaust. The benefit of that is it takes power to make power. So if you're going to run a supercharger, if you're going to all the way up, the reason they don't use them is because they put a lot of stress on crankshafts. And not only that, but it takes 20 or 30 horsepower just to run the supercharger. But what it does in this case is you don't have the power because you don't have boost pressure anyhow. So what they do is they use it virtually as a supercharger. So when you step on the gas, you don't wait for the turbo. It's already powered up. And then once it overrides with exhaust pressure, what happens is the Sprag just lets go, and you gain 30 horsepower plus you get the turbo. So the drivability is twice or even in the generator. Well, we've already got them in the generators right now, and I'll tell you what, 0 to full load is like that.
But what is that, diesel only though, fuel wise, or no?
Diesel only.
No CNG then.
I'm sure that will come into play.
Because I know that they're looking on the other side, is continuing with that. We've gone full CNG.
Well, the biggest thing right now that they're competing with out there now is the Korean engine, the Doosan, and I'm not going to comment. I don't like them. I don't like them in generators. I don't know what they swear.